Ever wondered how the financial watchdogs spot something fishy in the vast ocean of trades happening every single second?
It's a huge challenge.
Yeah, exactly. So today we're diving deep into something called suspicious transaction and order reports, or STORs for short.
Mm-hmm.
Think of them as the market's early warning system. Basically a formal flag that gets raised when activity suggests, potential insider trading or manipulation.
That's a good way to put it. And based on this FinCrime intelligence report we're looking at, a store is actually a mandatory report for a lot of players in the market.
Mandatory.
Yeah, if they observe or even just suspect transactions or orders that could point towards market abuse. And it's not just about deals that went through.
Right.
It also covers attempts, even orders that were withdrawn if they looked off.
Okay, so a store is a regulatory thing then. Part of the rules to fight market abuse. And it kicks in when there's observed or suspected funny business, not just proven.
Exactly. Observed or suspected, it's a really fundamental piece for, trying to keep the markets fair.
Maintaining integrity, yeah.
Precisely. The main idea behind stores is to give regulators a heads up about potential manipulation, like someone trying to artificially inflate or deflate a stock price,
Uh-huh.
or maybe insider trading, where someone uses confidential info they shouldn't have to make a profit.
Gotcha. So it's like a direct intelligence feed to the authorities,
Yeah.
helping them keep tabs on the system's fairness.
Absolutely. It's a crucial piece of the puzzle for them.
And for anyone listening who's just trying to get their head around how the financial system actually works, it's pretty interesting to see these proactive measures, these
That
checks and balances.
It really is. And what's quite interesting here is the threshold for actually submitting a store.
Okay.
It's not when a firm knows for sure that market abuse happened. It's when they have reasonable grounds to suspect it.
Reasonable grounds to suspect. That sounds potentially tricky.
It can be. It creates this balancing act for firms. They don't want to over-report and just flood the regulators with noise.
Right. Cry wolf too often.
Exactly. But they definitely don't want to underreport either, because that can lead to some hefty penalties. It puts a lot of pressure on their internal compliance teams to interpret these signals, which aren't always black and white.
Okay, and here's something you mentioned earlier that caught my ear. It's not just about successful dodgy deals.
No, not at all.
If someone trying to manipulate the market but, say, fails or places a really weird order and then quickly cancels it, that still needs a store.
That can still trigger a store, yes. It's about flagging the intent, the attempt, not just the crime that actually, came off successfully.
Wow, so it's quite preventative in that sense.
Exactly right. Focusing on attempts gives the regulators a much wider lens on what might be happening.
They see the near misses too?
Yeah, lets them spot patterns, maybe intervene earlier before something bigger happens.
Okay, makes sense.
Yeah.
Now, who actually carries the can for submitting these? It's not like me trading on my phone app, right?
No, definitely not the everyday retail investor.
Mm.
The legal obligation falls on investment firms, trading venues like stock exchanges, and basically anyone who's professionally arranging or executing transactions.
So like asset managers,
So we're,
brokers.
asset managers, brokers, various financial intermediaries, for them it's not optional. If they fail to report when they should have, they can face significant fines, not to mention the damage to their reputation.
Okay, serious stuff. So if these firms spot something that makes them think, that looks suspicious, what kind of information actually goes into the report? It can't just be a note saying felt dodgy, can it?
No, definitely not. It needs to be specific. You need a detailed description of what looks suspicious,
Okay.
clear information about the specific financial instruments involved, which shares, which bonds, whatever it was.
But what?
Exactly. Then the when and who, dates, times, and as much detail as possible about the individuals or companies involved in the activity.
Right, the nuts and bolts. And the FinCrime Intelligence Report also mentions supporting documents and analysis. What's that about? Evidence.
Yeah, precisely. This could be things like trading logs showing the sequence of orders and trades.
Oh, okay.
Or it might even include communications, emails, chat messages, that kind of thing, if they help explain why the activity seems suspicious.
So potentially pulling in chat logs. Interesting.
It can happen.
Huh.
And crucially, the firm also needs to document its own internal thinking. Why did they decide this crossed the threshold for suspicion? What steps did they take?
So they have to show they're working, basically, justify the report.
Yes, gives the regulator insight into their process.
Okay, so the firm gathers all this,
Yeah.
puts the STOR together.
Yeah.
Where does it actually go, and what happens then?
Well, if you're in the UK, it goes straight to the Financial Conduct Authority, the FCA.
The main regulator, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And in the European Union, it goes to the relevant national competent authority, the NCA, in whichever country the firm operates. And then those regulators, the FCA or the NCAs, they don't just file them away. They analyze these reports. They're looking for connections, for trends.
Patterns across different reports.
Exactly. Looking for leads that might suggest a bigger issue that needs a proper investigation.
So each STOR is potentially a piece of a much larger puzzle for the regulators.
You could definitely see like that. They're a really vital intelligence source in the fight against financial crime.
Which raises the question, how do firms actually spot this stuff in the first place, given the sheer volume of trading?
That's a very good point. It really comes down to having pretty sophisticated systems in place.
Technology, then.
A lot of it, yes.
Yeah.
Robust surveillance systems are key. Things that can automatically monitor trading activity, look for anomalies, maybe flag unusual patterns, and increasingly monitoring communications too.
Okay, so tech does the heavy lifting of sifting data,
Mm-hmm.
but it can't be just machines, surely.
No, absolutely not. The human element is critical. Firms need to train their staff traders, compliance officers to recognize those potential red flags of market abuse.
So people know what to look for.
Yeah, and they need clear internal procedures. What do you do if you see something? Who do you tell? How is it reviewed before a decision is made to file a store? And making sure it's all done promptly.
Right, so it's a mix of tech, trained people, and solid processes.
Exactly. And those advanced trade surveillance tools, using things like AI sometimes, are becoming more and more important to help separate the real risks from, just noise in the market.
It's fascinating how it all interconnects. The report also briefly touches on how stores fit into a bigger picture, mentioning things like SARs and STRs. Can you quickly explain that? Are they all related?
Sure, they are related, yeah. Think of it as a family of reporting tools.
Yeah.
Stores are very specific. They're about suspected market abuse in trading.
Insider trading, manipulation.
Right. Suspicious activity reports, SARs, it's sometimes called suspicious transaction reports. STRs, depending on the jurisdiction, tend to be broader. They cover a wider range of potential financial crimes.
Like money laundering.
Exactly. Money laundering, terrorist financing, fraud, things like that. So stores are like a specialized alert system focusing purely on market integrity, sitting alongside these broader SARs and STRs.
Okay, so different tools for different suspicious circumstances, but all part of the same overall effort.
Precisely. It's all part of this collaborative effort between the financial institutions doing the reporting and the regulators trying to keep the financial system clean and fair.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So to kind of wrap up our deep dive here, it seems clear that stores are, well, pretty crucial. They're a key mechanism for protecting the fairness of our financial markets.
Absolutely.
By making firms report potential manipulation and insider trading, they give regulators the intel they need to investigate and ultimately uphold market integrity.
Yeah, they're a vital tool. They help detect abuse, but hopefully they also deter it just by being there. It contributes to, a more level playing field for everyone.
Definitely. Okay, on that note, here's maybe something for you, the listener, to think about. Given how complex financial markets are becoming and how financial crime keeps, well, evolving.
It never stands still.
Right.
Mhm.
How do you think these kinds of surveillance systems, these reporting mechanisms like stores, will need to change? How will they need to adapt in the future to actually stay ahead of the curve, to keep catching illicit activities?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It really is. It's a huge ongoing challenge. And thinking about how regulation and technology need to keep pace is certainly something worth mulling over.